Well, hello, my friends, and welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farmer, the podcast. This is your host, JC Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: traditional education versus self-education. So on my morning walk this morning, guys, I take a morning walk every single morning because I like the peace and quiet of the morning. I mean, I get up at like 4:30 a.m. and go on a walk for an hour and a half every single morning in pitch dark. And this is where, it's just kind of a nice, peaceful time of the day for me to watch the sunrise, because that's honestly what I got to do a lot growing up on the feed yard. And that was, that's like my favorite time of day. But during this time, this is when I consume all my content and consume the content of, the networks that I'm also a part of. We have Legacy Farmer, the network, but then I'm also a part of other networks. And some of the content I was listening to this morning it made me start thinking about, all the things that we do inside of Legacy Farmer. And I've been listening to a bunch of, economic content here recently with the government printing trillions and trillions of dollars and us, the devaluation and debasement of the US dollar and kind of where we're headed there, because I have a business to protect, right? And the funny thing is once you graduate high school or college, you kind of have this general idea that, hey, I made it. I don't have to learn anything else. Well, I would argue that the real education starts exactly the day that you leave either high school or college. Now, what I wanted to talk about today was really the difference between traditional education and self-education, and really what you're going to get the most value from. And growing up, again, I took the traditional route just like everybody does, right? We go to school, we go to college, and you are told that if you get that college degree, that piece of paper, that it's going to mean a lot for you. Well, I'm going to argue the exact opposite in today's world, because the reality is I spent $100,000 going through college, and I use literally none of those resources or of the education from those classes that I got in today's world. And this is what I want to talk about, because we all kind of, again, we think that once we get through college that education just kind of stops. And I hope that we're starting to see that transition here. And I hope that people are starting to recognize that is not the answer going forward, because if you are running a business, you are going to fail if you are not continuing to educate yourself and learn new things and be open-minded, because we are living in an economy, in a world that is constantly changing. And if we as business owners are not able to adapt to it, then we're going to fail. Like, that's just the reality. We are going to fail. And a lot of farmers today, they're trying to fix tomorrow's problems with yesterday's solutions. And I'm talking tomorrow's problems with solutions that worked 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, in that line of thinking that was done back then. It doesn't work today. It doesn't work today. The level of a business owner you have to be inside of the ag industry today is completely different, even from what it was 10 years ago. Your level of awareness, your knowledge, your education, what you focus on and everything around it, you have to be operating at a different level. And when I think about all the tools that we provide inside of Legacy Farmer, and really just all the value that we bring to our members there, guys, none of it came from what I learned in high school or in college. I have a finance degree from college, and the finance that I was taught in college is in no way actually true to what reality is like, to what the real world finance is like. It's not even close. It is not even close. And so the thing is like all of the educational material, all of the tools and value that we provide inside of Legacy Farmer, I learned through self-education. I learned through experience. I learned from my time in the bank. I especially learned a majority of it from leaving the bank, jumping into the entrepreneurial, swimming pool, and with a 30-pound weight tied to me, and started treading water. And that is where I had to force myself to jump back into educating myself, working on myself, investing in myself over and over and over again. I've spent 3 times the amount of money just investing in myself that I spent in college. Like, I've spent 3 times the amount of money that I spent on a college degree in the past 5 years just on personal investment into myself, my mindsets, my skill sets, my networks, and everything that's ultimately going to push me forward. Now, a majority of us, though, it's just kind of funny, guys, the level of thinking that we have in today's world. We can justify going and spending $100,000 on an education that we'll literally never use again. But when we get done with that part of our life, we really have a hard time spending that same amount of money to help us in things that are going to actually help us on a day-to-day basis when we're running a business. And what I mean by that is if, I'm running a business, I guess, let me take a step back here, because this is the thing I find the most funny about traditional education. I have a business finance and business management degree, and it's essentially a business school, right? How many of my teachers in college do you think actually ran businesses themselves? Zero. But yet we were taught, trained, and conditioned that they were teaching us the right things. Now, I'm not saying they're bad people, but I'm not going to go take counsel on how to run a business from somebody that's never run a business. And back when I was younger and in college, that's how I thought the world worked. You get into this next stage of life and you actually jump into the pool and you are here and you are operating a business. All of a sudden now, you have to start surrounding yourself with other people that are running businesses. And this is where the real value comes in. This is why it's hard. This is why it doesn't make any sense for us to justify we can spend $100,000 on a traditional education and go to a university or whatever it may be. And we can justify that mentally because it's what our parents told us we were supposed to do. It's what our teachers told us we were supposed to do. But yet the knowledge that we get from there isn't worth anything going forward. It's not going to assist us at all. Now, it may if you're a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. But when it comes to a majority of people like me, getting a business degree and then realizing that none of the stuff I learned there is actually applicable in real world running a business, the day-to-day operations of running a business and all of the factors that go into that. Okay, but people that come into Legacy Farmer, what's crazy again is all the value, all the tools, all the resources, everything that our members are learning inside of there, learned from I learned and developed those tools out of self-education and experience. And the reason I'm sharing this is because we got to get past this point of thinking that once we're done with high school or college, that's just the end of the education curve for us. That's the end of learning. I'm sorry, but if you want to run a multi-million-dollar operation or farm or ranch or ag business, you want to be in the sales side of the ag industry or whatever business it is, I'm sorry, but you're in for self-education for the rest of your life because we live in a world that's constantly changing. We have to adapt or we will fail. It is a guarantee. There's not even a question about it. A majority of farmers and ranchers that have made it to this point, or I had some, clients when I was in the banking industry, and you sit there and you're like, how are these people even still operating? They are so disorganized. They have no idea where they're at financially. They have no idea how the bank works. They don't know how to put together a balance sheet. They don't know what a profit and loss statement is or anything like that. And I don't know how they've gotten this far. Well, back then, and back 30, 40, 50 years ago, the markets weren't changing as much as they are now. Well, when you have a government that, increases its balance sheet by $7-8 trillion over a 10-year period, and they increase the money supply by 20-some trillion, there's a lot of liquidity coming into the markets, and the markets are a lot more volatile now than they were back in the 40s and 50s. Okay. And so we have to be able to understand that we have to adapt and we have to learn and we have to educate ourselves. And it becomes this constant, never-ending journey of just continuous self-education. And we have to do that. You have to commit to this. You have to invest in your mindsets, your skill sets, and your networks, period. That is what is so valuable. You look at all of the testimonial videos that we've had from members doing for us inside of Legacy Farmer. When I ask them, out of everything that we provide here, all the trainings, all the tools, all the resources, and the network, what is the most valuable thing? Every single one of them says the network. Why? Because they're getting honest feedback and learning from other people's mistakes from actual business owners. This isn't theory. This isn't somebody's ideas. This is actual real life, real world mistakes and wins and successes that people are having too. They're learning what not to do. And in today's modern world, you guys have heard me say this on other podcasts, a majority of success is in learning on what not to do. Not even what to do, what not to do, because it's the mistakes that ultimately set us back. And a lot of farmers and ranchers are going to continue making mistakes if they think that they can just continue operating their business, flying by the seat of their pants, and not submit to self-education and learning going forward. And this is just, I hope some of you listen to this and it just wakes you up. I honestly do. Because once I left the banking industry, I got experience being in the bank. But when it comes to knowing how to run a business, that didn't happen until after I left the bank. In my first 2 years of literally felt like I was walking on, lava, because it was just constantly, it seemed like everything was on fire all the time. I was trying to learn all these different things in marketing and advertising and financial statements and banks and tax returns and strategies and entity structure and design and all these things. And all those things I share with the members inside of Legacy Farmer because that's what I learned from real world practice, real world experience, not theory. Traditional education will teach you theoretically how things are supposed to go. Real life education and experience will teach you reality and what it actually takes to succeed in today's never ending, never changing, always adapting type of world that we're in today. And so my friends, if you're still stuck in that old mindset where you think, man, I don't know if I can invest in these things, or I don't know, why should I be buying into networks, or why should I be buying programs to work on myself or whatever? Just understand, if you're not willing to do that, The person that wants to build the big operation or big business like you want to become, you will not become that person unless you invest in self-education and just self-improvement. It's so critical. It's so important. And this old attitude of, hey, you don't have to do anything else after you've graduated high school or college, you're good to go. You don't have to learn anymore. You don't have to spend your nights learning anymore. I'm sorry, but that's false. That's false. I've learned more in the past 5 years than I did in my entire career going through school. Past 5 years. Like, it's just incredible. It is incredible how many things we were taught growing up that are not applicable in today's world. And you have to go through and you have to relearn things. And you have to learn things that are actually based on reality. And you get there by investing in mindset, skill sets, and especially networks. Networks bring tools, resources, and people to connect with, people to learn from, people to do business with. It just creates all of these opportunities and all of this self-awareness in you. So you have to be willing to do that. I don't care if it's Legacy Farmer or not. I don't care. Maybe it's not. Maybe our network is not the right fit for you. Find something though. Otherwise, you will continue going down the same spiral you have been in for years. So my friends, that's all I got for you on this episode. I hope you found it valuable, and we will catch you on the next one.